All right, we're live. I'm very excited for a very special weekly Bitovi front-end JavaScript training. Today is hopefully going to be the release of DoneJS, our super framework that combines all the smaller parts of lesser frameworks into some giant Frankenstein monster of elegance and beauty. With me is the other two DoneJS contributors, Matthew Phillips and David Luecki.
Hello.
Hello, guys. Say hello, David.
Hi.
Oh, I was still cheating. Hey.
Hey! So what we're going to do today to celebrate our hopeful launch is to go through the actual getting started guide of DoneJS and produce a real-time chat application that loads super fast and runs on both desktop and in iOS. So that sounds like a lot, but it actually won't take us that long, hopefully, pending I do all my steps correctly. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And again, at any point, you can ask questions on JS training, and we're happy to answer them. Hopefully, David and Matthew, you guys can pop that open and be monitoring that for questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let me get started. I wanted to show where DoneJS is. This is DoneJS's home. We built this really nice looking, pretty website. And what we're going to be going through is the quick start guide here. And you can see the actual application that we're building. And David and Matthew, please follow along and make sure also that I'm not doing anything incorrectly while I'm going through. So I'm going to start at the setup, and I've already installed NPM, and I've already installed Xcode.
Yes. So if you there's a for everyone else's benefit, if you hover over guides, there's a setting up that tells you what to do. Like if you're using Windows or maybe Ubuntu in there because there were some special issues, but yeah.
I think, well, does Windows come with Node?
Does Windows come with Node? No.
Maybe that we should probably list that as a prereq.
I think I did at the top. It's kind of for everything.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Or maybe I didn't.
Well, neither does macOS, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it should for macOS.
So I've already installed Node, and I've already installed Xcode. So with those, once you install Node, it comes with this npm command, which is like Node Package Manager, which installs packages of other people's code. And we want to install DoneJS, which is largely created on the backs of the two gentlemen who are joining me. So I've got this temp folder, just a development folder, and I'm going to run, well, it doesn't really matter where I run this first command, it will the second command, but I'm going to run the npm install -g DoneJS.
And I'll cross my fingers while you do that.
Yeah, I probably should have cleaned my cache. Well,
Well, we can check the version. It should show up as.
So what this is going to do is install DoneJS's command line tools. It doesn't actually install DoneJS. It installs something that can install DoneJS.
It's like an installer for maybe that's what you just said, isn't it? Yeah, it's an installer for DoneJS.
Yeah, it's an installer for DoneJS, but it also it's command line tools, and what it can do is it sees if you have a local DoneJS installed, and then will kind of pipe commands to it to your local DoneJS. And this way you can kind of always install specific versions of DoneJS, but then your command line tools don't really have to be updated unless you're wanting to install new versions of DoneJS.
It fixes the problems we see with like if you have a big team and everyone's using a different version, and that creates lots of issues.
So I can do DoneJS-V?
It's capital V. I created an issue about this. I don't know if it should be capital or lowercase v, but
I have 052.
That sounds about right.
that's the one.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to do DoneJS init. I'm going to create a new project, and I want to give the project name, DoneJS chat. Now this is going to take a while, and hopefully not destroy my internet connection while I'm talking to you guys. But if it does, and you guys lose me, well, then we can talk about what CanJS does and provides.
What DoneJS does and provides.
What DoneJS do. What DoneJS do.
What DoneJS do. Okay.
And what DoneJS do is it's about page kind of outlines its primary goals. And it has three main goals, which we want to help people get their amazing applications done. We want to also keep. We always consider ourselves like there's the tortoise and the hare. We're the tortoise. We want to keep being this ever persistent, freight train of technical innovation, but still kind of maintaining backwards compatibility. And finally, we want to help create a community of people of all backgrounds, all skill levels, can come and get help and learn to build these amazing applications. Oh, hey, that actually went fast.
Not bad.
Oh, it hasn't started yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Running the DoneJS init, it's going to run a Yauman generator that's going to try to set up a basic project for me. So it's going to ask me a bunch of these. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so it's easier to see. It's going to ask me a bunch of basic questions about my application. Project name, I want to keep that, so I can just hit enter. Project main folder, I want to keep all my source code in the source folder inside DoneJS chat, so I'm just going to hit enter here. Description, I can just say a cool chat app. You don't have to put anything for any of these. URL, I'm just going to hit author's name, DoneJS team, email, homepage, doesn't matter. It's nice if you want to give a call out to DoneJS if you want to put that in your package.json. We appreciate it. So now what this is going to do is actually write out a bunch of files that are essentially your starter application, and then it's going to run npm install.
While you wait, you want to talk about what files there are?
Yeah, will I be able to see them in Sublime probably at this point? So let me open up a new project in Sublime. So I'm going to open up the temp DoneJS chat. Yeah, we can talk about the files that it creates while it's installing everything in Node modules. So I guess the starting point of everything is your package.
Right.
And this has the dependencies of your project, which I'm not seeing.
That's because they haven't been written yet, maybe?
Haven't added yet? Okay.
Yeah.
It does that after? That's interesting.
Why does an npm install -- save for each dependency?
Oh, it does. That's how it works. Interesting.
Good.
I figured it would just write them and then just do npm install. And why does it work that way?
It's like the Yauman convention.
Because you can run it at any time. So you don't just run it during initialization, right? You can run an npm install at any other time. And then you don't want to run an npm install.
I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll take it for granted. Okay, so this will eventually have the dependencies. But really the important part of talking about how your application gets started is this main module here. So this is going to point at DoneJS-chat index.stash, and it's going to say load this file, which we find in our source folder as index.stash here, which we'll come to in a second. It's going to say load that with the Done auto render plugin. Now, If you want a really good explanation or a decent explanation, if you go of how the page, how kind of application flow works in a CanJS application, if you go to APIs, this talks about essentially how server-side rendering works and how it loads things, and all the different modules it goes to kind of kick off the first page load, and then as you change pages through push state, what happens from that point forward. But in short, this main module, index.stash, is really what controls your whole everything. Okay. So what we'll see in a second is we get a message. We just get a very dummy page that says "Hello World." That's because this index.stash, it's just producing an H1 with a message inside it, and that message value is coming from the application's view model, which is imported from DoneJS chat app. And if we look in chat app, we can just see message is hello world. So let me see where we are here. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple other files worth mentioning. There's the build.js, which is our build script for production builds. We'll do that later. There's a development.html. If you don't want to develop with server-side rendering turned on, you can just use that just to do the client-side development. There's document.js, JSON for documentation. I guess those are the notable ones.
Yeah, there's a test.
Test, yeah.
There's a default test page that you can open up, and that will load this QUnit. It'll load QUnit and load your models test, which there are none yet, and it will also load any functional tests that you might have using FuncUnit, which there are no. Oh, there is a basic test that will run and just looks like it just opens up the development HTML page and checks that the title is set.
When the installation is done, you can run npm test, and then we can.
Yeah. So the package.json, or keep clicking that one. Package.json is. Oh, there we get some dependencies coming in. The package.json is already configured, so if you run npm test, it's going to kick off that test page in Firefox. And if you run npm start, that's going to like set up server-side rendering for your application and also host its static files. And if you run npm develop, actually, so DoneJS can also call any commands in your script folder, so you can run just DoneJS test, DoneJS start, DoneJS develop as well. If you run DoneJS develop, that will actually launch your application kind of in development mode and also set up live reload because it has this flag with it. Does npm start run it in production, or is that's just configured through the end? I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's configured through the end.
So it's just not doing live reload for the most part.
If you do if you just do DoneJS start, you will not get live reload. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So the big thing, and the reason why it took so long, we've been stalling, is because someone's sneaking up behind you. Look behind you. The real reason is because that's a Halloween joke. The real reason is because all of these dependencies have been installing. So DoneJS comes with a whole bunch of different projects underneath. The big two, I would say, where you spend most of your time are going to be CanJS and Steel.js. Steel is its dependency management solution, and CanJS is its like MVVM framework. Now it comes with a bunch of other things that help it CanJS connect to data and server-side render a CanJS application. A bunch of things around testing, and running tests and documentation, but this is kind of DoneJS's family here. So now that we finally have our application, I'm going to run that npm start, or sorry, I'm going to run DoneJS develop. I'm pretty sure that's the next.
Let me double check that. I believe so. Yeah.
Next thing we do. So we go to development mode. I'm going to cd into DoneJS chat, and then I'm going to run DoneJS develop. I'm not in DoneJS chat.
You want to be there.
I'm going to run DoneJS develop. And because I've got something running on port 8080 already,
oh no.
which I'm going to kill, I'm going to restart here.
That's a good error message.
That is a good error message.
All right, so can I just tell you what's happening here is obviously the web server started on port 8080. A live reload server starts on port 8012, and which is one of the cool things I think about our framework is that the server-side rendering connects to live reload itself, which is that second message.
Yeah, that is awesome. So what this means in the end, though, is I can just go to this port 8080 here and see a hello world. And it is server-side rendered. So if I reload my page and I look at my network tab, I will actually see hello world in the page. Server-side rendered, even though it's JavaScript, which is pretty darn cool. So the next thing that the guide wants us to do is, I don't like it like this, I like it like that, is add Bootstrap, and to show off the live reload stuff that hot module swapping that Matthew was just talking about. So I'm going to add Bootstrap to the application by using npm to install Bootstrap. Now I want to leave the server running, so I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to put in npm install Bootstrap, and I'm going to do this -- save. This adds Bootstrap to our package.json and also installs it. And this is one of the cool features about DoneJS that comes through Steel.js is that you can easily use npm packages. So once that's installed, and I'm going to leave my chat, well, I guess I'll leave it in place for right now. I kind of want to show the live reload in action. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import Bootstrap, and I'm going to do this over here so we can kind of see everything going at once. So I'm going to add Bootstrap to my page by writing this can import bootstrap less. So this is loading from Bootstrap, and I think see how Hello World just changed what it looks like because Bootstrap's styles were applied, and I didn't even have to refresh the page. That's the hot module swapping. So what we did, let me make this a little bit smaller. What we did is we said you can actually import modules from the template. So we wanted to import Bootstrap's less file. So that's what we did. And then the styles were changed. And the next thing I'm going to do is add some content that actually makes use of Bootstrap styles. So I'm going to replace this h1 here with a div. And with these divs that are using Bootstrap styles, I don't know if there's anything fun and dynamic that happens. Is there? Oh, look, I guess it kind of shrinks and snaps and stuff like that, like Bootstrap will, like Bootstrap do.
Just the basics, yeah.
So yeah, we could see Bootstrap changing. We could do some other fun things. So by default, the page comes with some styles. If I wanted to change all the text to red or something like that, I can save it, and we'll see that the live reload just automatically updates the page. I don't want to leave it red, so I'll save it back, and we can see that the styles have changed. All without saving. It's pretty. It feels like magic. It's pretty awesome. All right, so let's go to the next step. The next step is we want to create two different pages and be able to switch between them. So I think the main application shows there's a messages page here, and then there's the main home page here. In a DoneJS application, pages are typically custom elements. That's like how you instantiate them. You'll have a custom element that you show that contains everything for a page. And custom elements are built in CanJS with can component. So we need to create two components, one for the home page and another for the chat messages page. So DoneJS comes with generators that help you easily create those kind of like scaffolding for components. And there's two types of components that you might build. One is you can build it for very simple components. You can put everything in a .component file, which we'll do here. So that kind of contains the custom elements, view model, its template file, its styles, all in one easy to look at location. So to add a component file to my application, I'm going to do DoneJS add component, and then I'm going to give it essentially the module ID of the component we're building, which would be home.component. And then I'm going to give it the tag, the custom element name. So I want to be able to create chat home elements, so like that, but you don't write those brackets around it. You just give it the tag name that you want the component to be created as. And what that made is a home component file. And you can see here, it's very much like what web components are going to look like if and when they ever land, where we have a kind of a declaration that we're defining a component, and here's the tag, the custom element name that we want to create an element out of. And then there's the styles for this element, the content that this custom element will have inside of it, and then a view model that controls the behavior of this custom element. In this case, it's just going to have a message saying this is the chat home component, and that's what's going to be displayed inside these paragraphs. Now, for more complex components, which is in most of our applications, we tend not to use this too often, except for very simple pages that are like, oh, hello, how's it going? You get those kind of informational pages in applications a lot, and we'll use this for those. But for the real meaty type behavior or type pages, we'll generate a component with the modlet pattern. And the modlet file pattern means that every piece of this component is going to have its own file. So to create another component broken out into a bunch of different files, I'm going to add a component, and it's going to be messages component, or messages component. That's the module name, and the tag name is going to be chat messages.
So the difference is by omitting the .component, it's going to create the module.
Yeah. So now we have a messages folder, and you can see here we have the messages, chat messages component, but it's getting its template from a different file. It's getting its less from a different file. And it has its own test file and documentation file and everything. It's like its own. This is the whole idea behind the modlet, is that everything kind of lives in its own folder. So we just generated these. Now what we want to do is make it so that we can navigate between each different element, between each different page by clicking on a link that's going to bring us to the other page. So we're going to change the home component so it links back to the chat messages component. To do that, we're going to change a little bit of its styles. Well, I guess the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move this this H1 stuff we had in the page to show like DoneJS chat. Here. We're going to move the content here. We're going to move that into the actual home page element. So I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to disappeared, but that's okay. And then in home component, I'm going to paste that back in. And I'm going to keep following my guide to make sure I'm doing it right. You can just cut and paste this whole thing, but I'm trying to do it iteratively. So I put in my H1, and now there's some styling it looks like we want applied to the H1, so I'm going to paste that in. And then I want a link to the other page. So to create a link in CanJS, I'm just going to do an href, but I want this to link to essentially what I could write, but I shouldn't, is I want this to link to the chat page. I could write this and the application would actually work, but when you hard code your URLs, that's kind of a bad practice, because if you ever want to make any URL changes, you have to go and change every single link like this, and that can be really tricky to find. So CanJS lets you kind of isolate routing rules from the actual link creation using a helper function called route URL. And what I want to do is say my route URL, its page, is going to be the chat. And essentially what this is going to do is set the page property on our application's view model to chat. And it looks like there's some styles that Bootstrap wants us to have. I'm not going to write those out. I'm just going to copy and paste those. And then I'm going to put in start chat inside here. And this home chat home element doesn't have a view model, so we can actually just remove that. Okay. Now I want to add a link from the messages component back to the home page. So I will open up the messages stash, and I'm just going to get rid of, I guess we'll leave the message in place, but I'm just going to add a link. In this case, I want to set the page property to home. When someone clicks on this link and they want this to say home, oh, this needs to be in an H5. H5. Cool. All right, so now my messages custom element has a link to the home custom element, and the home custom element has a link to the messages page. My next step is I need to define some pretty routing rules. I don't actually have to do this. CanJS would work without it, but it's always nice if our URL is going to look like you know, home, or actually for the home, we'll make it so it's just slash, and we'll make it chat when you're on the chat page. That's much better than looking like, you know, question mark page equals chat or question mark page equals home. But because I don't want this, I'm going to create a pretty routing rule. And I'm going to say route. The pretty routing rule is if there is slash something, that something, we're going to set the page property of the application view model to whatever the value is here. And if there is no value, we're going to default the value to home. And it also looks like we're going to remove this message property because we're really not using it anyways. Just a dummy property there, so you can see that properties are on the view model those are the properties available in your index.stash. So now we set up our pretty routing rule. We set up 2 different custom elements. We made 2 different custom elements. Finally, what we need to do is route between the custom elements. So if I go back to index.stash, we still have this container row, and what I'm going to add inside of it, is some logic that checks the page, and if the page is chat, we're going to progressively import the messages component and then write that custom element in the page once the module has finished loading. So let's do this. I'm going to do this by hand. I'm going to try to, and so that you can see it just suddenly work in here. So to start with, I'll just do progressive loading without even an if. So I'm just going to can import. I'm going to give the name of the module from, and I'm going to say we're going to show the home page first. So I'm going to say I want DoneJS chat. Do I have to write DoneJS chat?
No, I don't think you do.
Can I do dot now?
You should be able to. I don't know if I've ever actually used it. It's in the test.
Let's go for it. Let's do it live. Okay, so I could write DoneJS chat home component, and because home component is a special, it's not a JavaScript file. I'll add the bang. We'll get it working first, and then we'll experiment. So here's my can import. So this inside here, when the template sees this, it's going to dynamically load this, and then it's going to render the content inside here right away, but it's going to render it with a promise that represents the loading of this module. So I could actually check, like, while this module is loading, while the promise essentially is pending, I can show loading. We put it in a, yeah, we just show loading. And then if it's not pending, we'll assume it's loaded. We could deal with error conditions right now, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually put in the, is it chat home custom element? Let's see, chat home, yep. I'm going to put in the chat home custom element. Now saving that should show us a home page. And we have a link to the chat, but clicking this won't do anything because, well, we'll change our URL, but there's nothing there. Okay, so let's experiment. We should be able to do this now, I assume, and have things work. No errors, that's a good sign. Okay, cool. We could load our home component, and these things should all work the same, I think, as well. Which would be nice to maybe change the generator to work. So, all right, all we're doing right now is progressively loading the home component and then showing it in the page. And if our entire site was just one page, well, don't progressively load. Instead, you would just import the home component up here with everything else and then just put it in the page. No reason to add progressive loading. But because we can switch pages and we don't want to load every page's code all at once, we're going to make it so we detect what the page property of the view model is and then progressively load different pages' content and show it. What that looks like is I'm going to check if there's an EQ helper. If the page property is home, then I want to do this logic here to show the home page. And just to show things working, I'm just going to write an else, and I'll just be like, I'll just put the EQ. I can just say, for now, show chat. So now, if I click here, it should say show chat, and I hit the back button. It does this because this logic is driving the behavior of the page. So now to progressively load the messages element, I'm going to write messages slash. So when you end things with a slash, what that does is it takes whatever's right before the slash and tacks it on again. So it's just a shorthand for loading things in the modlet. What we really want to load is messages.js. But when you're using modlets, you can just end it with a slash, and we know to go find that. And in this case, we want to import messages, but we are going to, it's chat messages, right? Is the custom element, chat messages.
Mm-hmm.
Now saving that, I guess I shouldn't have even had to refresh, but I'm just so used to it.
Oh.
Now we have the links, but I think this link was not supposed to look like that, so let me change that. Messages.dash, it wasn't supposed to have all of these classes on it. I think it was just supposed to look like a normal link.
And you're supposed to add the message list.
The what?
The list of
next.
messages. It
Right?
is?
Yeah, that's the next step. Oh, it looks like live reload wasn't working there. Unless I forgot to save it. Yeah, looks like live reload isn't working here. All right, this is why we test. Cool. All right, so let me. Okay, but if live reload fails, well, it's easy enough. You just restart your page and it should work again. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually finish implementing these different pages. And the way I'm going to start is to add to the home page, the home component, we want to add a little dummy tabs to the page. So this little CanJS, SteelJS tabs. And this is just to show how how nice custom elements can be, and also how easy it is to import other widgets and use them with DoneJS. So we created a BitTabs custom element, and we put it on npm. And I want to use that BitTabs in this chat application we're building. So I'm just going to install BitTabs and make sure I got the -- save, so it's saved to my package.json as a dependency. And then once I have that, actually, let's just I want to check this to see if, oh, that's the problem. Oh, I wonder if the problem is because of this class being empty like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's because I'm getting those can I call method of split of undefined. That might be it. Interesting. Where was I? So we installed BitTabs. Okay, now we want to actually use it in home component. And that's pretty easy. The first thing we need to do is import the actual BitTabs. And you can import it different places, but I always like to import things closest to where they're actually used. So I'm going to import BitTabs in this template. So I'll do BitTabs, and we're going to get the unstyled version. Right, unstyled. Because the styled version conflicts with Bootstrap styles, so that's why we just get a version that just brings in no style sheet of its own. And then I'm going to use BitTabs. And I'm just gonna, so you can see here, I'm just gonna kind of copy this because it's just easier than walk through it. All this is doing is creating a tabs. It's using the tabs custom element to create a little tabs widget. It has this tabs class mostly just to make it work with Bootstrap styles. This just adds nav tabs on this BitTabs internal UL element. And then we're going to create 2 panels with titles and their content. And then
It should be over top the link, shouldn't it? I think it's over top.
Oh, I think you're right. So let me move that.
I guess it doesn't matter.
So now, if I go to the home page and save, we see this tabs widget. But I should, the styles kind of look gross. So here it has us changing the padding. So this adds to a little bit of space to those paragraphs, so it ends up looking nicer. This is another live reload issue. There we go.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one yet.
Yeah. Well, this one's hard to find. It's hard to reproduce.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's the home page that we've made. And then we're going to do the messages page. So for the messages page, we need to get a list of the different messages that are on a server that we're hosting.
And it'll be updated live.
Yeah, and it'll be updated live. So I'm just going to make a connection to a service layer. You create a CAN connection, and we have a generator that creates a CAN connection with pretty much all the best behaviors, commonly used ones that are really useful. And the generator just makes that. So I'm going to do that. Oh, I got the same warning again, that split thing. Could not find that. That's weird. Okay. Oh. So I'm running the supermodel generator, and I'm going to put in the URL endpoint you want to connect to.
Do you want to show that one? How it looks?
Yeah, but I need to run it first, right?
Yeah, it's probably empty right now. True.
Okay, so that created a message. A message model. And really now in DoneJS and will be in CanJS, the behavior of models is split into two parts. There's the actual modeling bit of your model where you define the type of data that you want created from your back-end data, and then you create a connection that wires up your typed data to some URL. And
So yeah, sorry, what I was saying is like show what the API returns so that people get an idea how it looks.
It just returns an array of messages for the most part. Because we're supposed to get done in 10 minutes, I don't want to go into too much depth here. But this is a RESTful service for messages for the most part. The important thing, I think, is more to just understand SuperMap is essentially creating a CAN connection, but this is just a helper function that creates connections with like fall-through caching, real-time lists, the ability to connect to a RESTful URL, all of that kind of stuff. This is a wrapper function for a bunch of different behaviors being created. And it also creates a custom element which you can see here, a custom message model tag that actually uses the message connection to load messages. And you can actually use this in the page, which is what we're about to do. So I can actually go to my message template, messages.stash, and here, if I want to list all the messages, I can import that. That module. So this will be DoneJS chat models message. And with that, I can actually use that custom element, which is message. Let's find out what it was again. Message model. I can use that custom element to get a list of all messages on the server. And those messages will be in. So this actually inside here, the inner kind of the user template of this custom element, which you'd call kind of the light DOM or user DOM. Inside here, this is rendered with a promise that is the list of messages that this message model is retrieving. To make it work, line up nicely with Bootstrap, we add this class list group on it so we can have nice listing with Bootstrap. And promises, I could do something fancy and say like, well, while it's pending, while its promise is pending, show loading, but that's not really necessary, mostly because server-side rendering, it's already going to be present in the page, actually. Mm-hmm. So, this div, this is a bug, I think, David, to Mark. I don't know, I've seen this so many times, I don't know how I missed it, but we don't need this div anymore. If you know what I mean.
That is true.
Yeah. So what I want to do is really since this gives a promise and the actual promises and like resolved value is actually value inside here, which contextually I want to make sure I'm getting the right one. I'm just going to loop through all of each value in the promises return resolved value, and for each one I'm going to list the message. And it's doing it as a div, and I'm just going to kind of copy this part because it's just a little bit easier. I'm going to list each message's name and its message property. All right. And then if there are no messages, here's where we're going to say another message. Our own message saying there are no messages. We'll put in the HTML for that. So with that, should be able to go to Start Chat, save this. And let's see. Hold on, I'm going to restart the live reload server here.
Yeah, you got in a bad state.
Okay. So here, somehow we don't have any protection around people writing messages without any content. So that's why probably our app doesn't do any validation. We probably make the server do that maybe, but this has got to be Brian. Almost certainly Brian's message. Okay, so let's get rid of that. This is the chat messages component message. Okay, so there we got a list of messages from the server. Hooray! Live reloading didn't hit that either. Interesting. I almost want to stop what I'm doing and figure that out.
I think I know what it is, Justin.
Okay, you do?
Yeah, I think it's the in the template using the relative. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's I don't know. That's a good possibility. That's what it is.
That's the only thing that's different from the guide.
I'll explain to you why that is.
Okay. Why?
Well, server side has to do a very hard thing that there's not a good way to do, which is like determine what is a page, and it kind of has a not the best way to determine that. So we need a better way to determine that. So I think that's probably what it is.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I don't know if that's still. Well, we'll see in a second if I make a change here. So let me bring the message back. All right. Well, yeah, live reload is working. That might be it. Okay. So where was I? Okay. Now we need to make an actual form to create the messages. Okay. This is, David, make sure someone goes back and cleans up what this looks like, because somehow this doesn't look right. And plus these things should be ending with like slashes consistently. Do you know what I mean?
Not in HTML5.
Huh?
Not in HTML5, no.
Yeah, but still should be doing it. And if that's true, then that'll probably trip a can stash. But we should be consistent no matter what, right? Okay. So, anyways, we can post in this this form, and this is going to allow us to create our new messages. I'm going to clean that up. So here we're two-way binding the. Let me make this a little bit wider. Here we are two-way binding the value in this input element's value to name in the view model and message in the view model to this input's name, and then we have a send button that when this form is submitting, we'll call send with the submit event essentially. So essentially, what we're doing is we're tying two-way binding these two inputs to name and message, and what we need to do is when somebody hits send with the event, we're going to prevent the default, and so that the form isn't actually submitted, and then we're going to read the name and message property from the view model, create a new message, and send it to the server. Of course, I need to make sure that I am importing my message from the message model. And where is, I must not have saved the template. There we go. Now we have this form at the bottom, and I should be able to write Justin, my message, please work, and we'll hit submit, and yay, it does work. Awesome. Now, one cool thing about Can Connect compared to the old CanJS model is you'll notice I didn't need to do anything to get this new message in the list of messages. This is because Can Connect's real time knows that when you requested every message model, any new message model belongs in that list and will automatically add it to that list for you. Okay. All right, so next step is we need to add a real-time connection. To add a real-time connection, we built this wrapper around Socket.io for Steel.js. The big reason is Socket.io we're going to use to do real-time, but you don't want it running on the server. So we have a version that essentially
Stubs it.
when you're doing server-side rendering, it stubs socket.io, so it doesn't actually do anything. But it does do stuff on the client. So we installed that, and now all we really need is to make our message model. We need to make it so it's going to import our version, our kind of potentially stub version of socket.io, and we are going to once we have our connection, we're going to tell socket.io to connect to our, when I say our, I mean with the DoneJS team, our chat server that we're hosting for its backend services. We're going to create a connection there, and then we're going to listen to that for when messages are created, and then we're going to tell our messages connection that a new instance was created, and with whatever data came in. So this is all you have to do to set up a real-time.
So, sorry, is the order there is just a plain object? That's what we got from the server, right?
That is just yes, raw data from the server.
Okay.
And this should not be order. I just realized these should be messages.
Oh, yes.
Another thing.
I'll write that one down.
Okay, so with that, I should be able to open up two versions of this and have them talk to each other. I don't know where the other one just went, but hold on. Where the heck did that browser window go? Well, it's a Hangout. Like, just disappeared somehow. Weird. Let me just open up another tab then. Okay, so I'm gonna try to say send one message from. So I think my daughter right now is sending me a message. Hear that in the background. Feed me. Yeah, and I'm hearing her message loud and clear, but thankfully I think Mom just heard it. Okay, so real-time works. Hooray!
Yay!
Yay! Okay, so now we want to. So now we've got a real-time application that's progressively loaded and all of that. So we need to be able to build it and send it out to production. We are going to build an application. It's nice. All you have to do is run DoneJS build, and that finds this build script and runs it, which is pretty small. DoneJS build. And this automatically detects everything that you're progressively loading and will do this kind of complex algorithmy build process to figure out what the proper bundles to write out are, and write them all out into this dist bundles folder here.
Yeah, so basically there's a main bundle for each of the pages that you'll be showing.
Yeah, and then there's also a why is there? Oh, I know the utility one. And then there's also a combined one too.
Yeah.
For what they share. That is not shared with the main application too. What is the main one? What is the?
It's DoneJS index, DoneJS chat index.
Okay, so this is the main one. This is the okay, cool. All right, so we could run in production by doing this, and we'd see that those main modules are loaded. But I'm going to skip that because we're going to run in production eventually anyways. But first, I want to run in production when we've actually deployed everything to a CDN. So I'm going to go to my Firebase account and sign up with Google, which I've already done. And I have already created this DoneJS chat jam Firebase. I could do another one if I wanted, which, fine, sure, I'll do. Although I don't know if they're going to knock me eventually, like want me to pay. Can you create as many of these development only?
I believe so. Yeah, I've been creating.
So I'm going to create another DoneJS. I'm going to call it
The only thing I've noticed is if you delete one, you'll never get the name back. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I'm just going to reuse the one that I already did. Now you can create a new one here yourself, but I'm going to kind of Who's this? This is the name I want though, right? This is DoneJS chat JBM.
Right.
So what the guide tells me to do is I got to remember that, and where I'm going to put in this config in the package.json to tell DoneJS where to deploy all its static files to. So in package.json, at the end of it, I'm going to put in this DoneJS configuration, and that'll have a deploy configuration, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff. But all you really need to do is update the app name, and my app name again is DoneJS chat JBM. So DoneJS chat JBM.
Yeah, so we're going to make a generator for deploy that will fill all this in for you.
Yeah, eventually. And then I'm going to, and then I also need to say when we're running in production on the server, the base URL for like things like Steel.js, where it points to, is this Firebite base URL. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to find where systems is in here. Here's system. And I'm going to add this to the end of system. And the app name is going to be DoneJS chat JBM. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to kill my development server. I'm going to run the build again. You need to run the build again, which I think we should definitely add a DoneJS deploy -b or something like that. Run my build. Because I changed package.json, it needs to be built with those changes to it. Then I'm going to run DoneJS deploy. And this is, I've already put in my Firebase credentials. I've done this previously, so you might see that, but I've already done it, so it just worked for me. It says I've deployed everything, so now I should just be able to
start her up.
Start her up. So I'm setting the node environment to production, and then I'm running that DoneJS start, which starts the server-side rendering in production and tells our app it's in production. So I'm starting there. And now if I go back to my app and look at the network tab, you should notice that all of this stuff is loading from Firebase, which is pretty darn cool. Even Steel.js is loading from Firebase. And our styles are loading right away. If we look at our, we can look and see that if we go to the messages page and I refresh, or go to the chat page, we can actually see those chat messages are server-side rendered. And you can see that our styles are the first thing in the page written out as well. So you get this, you get exactly what you want, which is the page to load with the styles first, then server-side rendering, and at the very bottom, we're going to start loading all of our JavaScript.
And then you got there's an inline cache, which paired with can connect will prevent an initial request from happening.
Yeah, so when JavaScript comes alive, normally it would try to then make an AJAX request. See, oh, I'm at the chat page, I need to make an AJAX request for all the messages. But because server-side rendering to make this page had to get those same messages. It's going to request, like the user's going to pretty much request right away anyways. We package them up and send them to the client, so the client will actually see them and just use that for the data JavaScript needs, which is pretty cool. Toby Keith, that's a funny one. Okay, so now we're going to do the final part, which is the really cool part. We're going to build this into a iOS application. So I'm going to run, to do that, you're going to run DoneJS add Cordova. And this is going to download and install everything we need to make an iOS build, and it's also going to run a Yauman generator to ask me a few questions, I think, at some point as well. Right? It does ask questions.
Yeah. When you run add, it's going to add the generator, ask your questions, and then you do the build.
For some reason, when you said like ask your questions, I was like thinking Monty Python when the one dude's on the bridge and you get knocked off if you answer wrong. What is your favorite color? Blue. No. Yellow.
Yeah. So ask the name, and then it'll ask like.
So is there any is this like why are we asking this question? What would answering different than just DoneJS chat? I mean, if you wanted a special name for your iOS app or something?
Yeah, it might be what appears in the taskbar. Yeah.
In the taskbar? Okay. ID of the project, I assume that's fine. And then you can pick which builds you want. We want just the iOS one. You can pick other ones depending on what platform you're running on and things like that. So I'm going to hit enter. Now, for this to run, is there anything besides Xcode you need? This is really where Xcode is needed the most. Well, I guess the other stuff, Xcode is still needed.
You do need to install the iOS simulator.
I don't think you do. I don't think you should have to.
I have to. It I don't know if it
with Xcode,
but usually you have to npm install iOS sim-g.
Well, we should figure that out because that's not on the guide. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I removed it because I think you had to. We should figure that out.
Confirm. Okay, so now having done that, well, all I have to do is run this DoneJS build Cordova, and that should build to iOS. What that generator did is it actually changed the build. It added some code to the build script so that I can run Cordova.
Cool.
And let me come back to where it is. So this is running.
This is actually pretty quick.
Now it looks like it's deploying to the iPhone 6 simulator.
Very faster than Android.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is faster than Android.
Well, the emulators, yeah.
What do I do with my app? With my app. I think maybe this one's disconnected. Okay. So here we have our iOS version of our application, which I should be able to send another message to. So I'm sure Ramya is fussy. And I hit send, and I got another message from Ramya saying she's fussy. Hooray!
Not Ramya.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the next thing. I want to build the desktop version. So that uses NWJS. So I'm just really going to repeat the same process I already did. And instead of adding Cordova, I'm going to add NWJS. And this will take up to a minute, because once you do this, it actually, well, I think it's actually, once you run NW for the first time, it also does some installation as well.
Yeah, it downloads a copy.
NWJS is a combination of, so these I can just hit enter with, oh, although this I think I do have to enter this version number here, because the latest version doesn't actually have like an iOS or something, right? What was it?
Yeah, I think, well, last I checked, it didn't have a 64-bit OS X version.
Okay, so I'm going to
So
build...
I usually uncheck the 32-bit.
So we'll just build this OS X 64 version. And so what NWJS is it's a combination of web, well, it used to be called Node WebKit. It's Node compiled with WebKit. So you essentially get access to what WebKit, like a browser, but you also get access to everything Node can do, which is pretty darn cool.
Mm-hmm.
And with that built, I should be able to open DoneJS or build DoneJS.
No, you didn't
I think
run
you
the
have to
build.
run it. Yeah.
Huh?
You didn't run the
DoneJS
build.
build
did you?
Oh, whoops,
NW.
I have to run DoneJS build NW. Sorry. Yeah, I install with the add command. Now I'm building. So now here it's actually downloading from NWJS what it needs to be able to make these builds. And that, now I can actually CD into it. Build, or I'll actually just open it. Open, build, NJS chat, 64, NJS chat app. Here we get the application. Now we can show them all communicating at once. So Grami is doing better, so she's happy now. We get those.
There it is, all three.
So there, that's the getting started guide of DoneJS. What it results in is a real-time, super fast loading application that runs everywhere, which to us is really the, I want to use the, like, it's really like the holy grail of web development in a lot of ways, because outside of that, I mean, yeah, you got to deal with the responsive design aspect, but everybody has their own take on that. We're not going to really touch that. But all the big problems, I think, are mostly solved. So that's it. Hopefully, hopefully this encourages some people to check it out. Those live reload bugs, hopefully we should have fixed very soon. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, it's very exciting, obviously, to be at this place. Look forward to a lot of feedback.
Cool. Yeah, let us know what you think. All right, until next week, I'm Justin Meyer saying peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.